And I find it kind of funny, I find it kind of sad. The dreams in which I'm dying are the best I've ever had. I find it hard to tell you, I find it hard to take. When people run in circles, it's a very, very mad world. Mad world.
I'm Vin.
I'm Sori. This is Sundown Week, where we are going to be exploring a number of different songs that are, what would you say, like for mental health,
Well, just the darker side of humanity, would you say? Mental health, that type of thing.
So anyway, this is the first one of 14 songs, up and coming.
So there you are, dear listener.
Here we go. Oh, can you say that name?
This is Chimaira-Nothing Remains, song 1. Let's do it.
So,
Okay.
Shout out to the big homie Steve.
This is going to be an interesting week for us, I'll tell you what.
Or 2 weeks, depending. Right now, I am on maternity leave. We shot this video before, so that's why you're still seeing us.
Okay.
Here we go.
Well, we should introduce the song. Good Lord.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
The name of the song is Nothing Remains. The name of the band is Chimaira. You know, I had a guy that was like teaching me guitar and stuff, and like Chimaira was his favorite band, and he was saying that Chimaira had like the most complicated riffs or something like that. So I'm very interested to listen to this song.
No? Okay. Well, here we go.
Nothing Remains, Chimaira. Let's do it.
Nothing
Wow.
moly.
That was so heavy.
Talk about guitar heavy track, and then that little flurry at the end. I was like, oh, song's over. No, we're going somewhere else. No. Yeah. That little progression at the end better show up somewhere later on that record, because that sounded really good.
Oh, yeah.
To just waste.
It was an interesting song to start the record with. You almost kind of think they would end with it.
Yeah. When he stood, there was a gunshot.
Oh, it's not a gun. He was back before this.
See, right there.
Oh yeah, I didn't catch that.
Silence the Pain, bang. Okay, well,
Oh my gosh.
here we go. So it's a mental health week. Is that what we're calling it?
Well, he's gonna come up with a name, so you might get one something further. But for now, it's been this recording.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting perspective, because people say that all the time. Oh, you took the easy way out. Mm-hmm. You know, like especially the first one that happened in my life. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't really know if I went there. I was more feeling like abandoned, like they, you know, like, because she was a mother figure. She wasn't my mom, but she was definitely a mother figure. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely one of those situations where, but it was a weird relationship that we had, because at the time both of our lives were surrounded around taking care of this one person. Mm-hmm. And so that was my ex's mother, basically. So, you know, that was the last discussion I had with her. You know, it was just about, like, because she lied. She said she was going to move to Louisiana. And that was her big thing. I'm moving. So she had this one last visit before she moved, supposedly. And she spent a bunch of money, and I kept telling her, like, yo, stop spending all this money. This is why everybody takes advantage of you all the time. And she's like, yeah, but you guys never asked me for money. And I'm like, yeah, we don't want anything from you. Like, just relax. She was like, no, I just want to, you know. And she was supposed to.
You guys were moving too, I think. So she was
Nah, we
cleaning
weren't
the apartment.
moving. We weren't moving. We just got there, basically.
That wasn't the time she cleaned an apartment.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, yeah.
Pretty
I
sure
got
she
assigned. I got assigned over to Kentucky, and everybody was still here. So yeah. So you were hanging out with her a little bit, trying to clean out the apartment because you were moving, and then, you know, she came down to visit, and it was this whole, you know, I don't know. This is a weird situation. She's buying all this stuff or whatever, and she, you know. Yeah, it was a pretty tough situation. So anyway, she was like, yeah, I was supposed to drop her off at the bus station, and she's like, no, I'll go by myself. I'll just get a cab. I'm like, I ain't getting no cab. Like, relax, you ain't getting no cab. And then I was there in the bus station with her, and I was like, all right, you know what I'm saying, like, you gotta find some way to visit from Louisiana. I was like, well, it's Kentucky. Louisiana is actually closer than when we were in Maine. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? Because Kentucky was like here, and Louisiana was like over there. So I was like, you're actually gonna be able to see us more. She's like, yeah, whatever. And then she gave me a hug and a kiss, and she was crying, which is really strange for her, because her and I were the exact same way. There's not a lot of public affection, not a lot of public emotion, you know. At the time, it was an assignment, but it was a local, so, you know, it was pretty pedestrian life at the time, you know what I mean? There was not a lot of, so she's hugging me, she was crying. I was like, I'll tell you, that was the strangest feeling I've ever had in my entire life.
I'm so totally confused, because the last time that she came, was the only time that I ever met her.
Yeah.
And I brought her to the bus station. So
You
am I
brought
thinking
her-
of
you
another
brought her-
trip?
You brought her to the bus station for her to go to New York.
Yeah.
So we were in Kentucky.
Yeah,
So her last visit, we were already moved and settled in. She went from New York to Kentucky to hang out with us. And when it was time for her to go home, when it's time
for the life of me,
she
couldn't
took the
figure out. I'm
Greyhound.
like, why does he keep saying I'm the one that brought? You weren't even here.
Yeah,
when brought her to the bus
already
station.
I was already in
So she
Lexington.
met you guys over. That's right. She left.
She came down to hang out with us for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And got us a TV, got us all these couches, blah blah blah. That TV down there is, I mean, just thousands and thousands of dollars. Like I was just like, yo, what are you doing? And she was like, oh. So, yeah. So that was just a weird moment, man.
Some of the conversations that her and I had, literally, that was the first time I had ever met her, and I thought that she was going to be more like your ex. I just thought it was going to be like just an older version of your ex, but she was completely different. And her and I had a number of different conversations that obviously I would never, I would tell you the conversations, but I wouldn't put any of those other conversations out there. But yeah, I liked her a lot. It's interesting and not interesting. Interesting is a weird word to use, but you've cycled through your feelings on it many times, and it's been an extremely difficult thing for you, and you've said that's something that you'll never recover from. And it's weird because I've had feelings about it too, and I guess you could say maybe I hate seeing the negative effect that it has on you, and I hate seeing that the kids don't have grandparents where there should be grandparents. So there's part of me that will get I feel sad for everybody, and then there's times where I get so angry with her. And I understand, you don't have that feeling about it because you knew her more. I don't really know, but then I feel bad for being so angry about it. But I think that when somebody does that, it affects way more than they realize that it's going to. Who would have thought, you know what I mean? And the kids will say, because Selah has grandparents on both sides of the family. And she has great grandparents even. My mom's parents are still alive, which is wow. And so, when it, I can see that it's affecting the kids, that they wish that they could go to their grandparents' house and just have that time with them. That bothers me. But I don't know. It sounds extremely selfish, I know, and that's why I don't let myself think about it too much, but
yeah, I mean, we got into her email and we're looking at her email and stuff, and she's just very lonely. It's really what it came down to it. But her family was just sucking the life out of her. They were just
I could totally see how it would happen too, because she was such a strong, literally I only saw her for a weekend, but she seemed like an extremely strong woman. She didn't seem like, there's some people that when they get in your circle, they're just take. And they might be taking physically, they might be taking emotionally, take. That's all they do. Well, then there's other people that you get around and they're just givers, and that's how she was. She was just such a, from what I saw, again, it was just a couple days that I saw her, but she just put off a different energy, and when things didn't go, there was things that didn't go the way that she wanted them to go, and I have certain thoughts of how things should absolutely be, and her and I's thoughts lined up exactly on how things should be, and when it was clear that some people were not willing to make any sacrifice for her, she was just that's okay, it's not a big deal, and just let it go. And
yeah, that verse, all these years past, no one heard true feelings, you continue to act like you knew me. Yeah. Did you ever stop to think that I'd be able to look in your eyes and say that I'm stable? Like,
Yeah.
you know. And a lot of times, like, when somebody's really going through something, people are like, oh, I'm worried about you, and then they'll ask about you, and then you'll lie, and everybody knows it's an obvious lie, but they're good with that. Mm-hmm. They're good with the lie. Mm-hmm. You know, so, yeah, I'm trying to think back. I don't really think I had a lot of anger towards her in the situation. I understood. And, you know, she sent letters to very specific people, and then she made sure not to send a letter to certain people in her family, and like that was one of them, you know, it's just a big FU to that particular person or family. It's just like, man, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and you know, when I look back at the situation, I was like, you know, how the hell do you miss something that obvious? Like, she shows up, because she was always mega frugal with her money. So it's like, she shows up and drops like 10 grand, like, you didn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and like the days before it happened, she kept sending all this stuff from the apartment. You know, like every day there'd be another box. You know, and a lot of that stuff was like her daughter's stuff, and her daughter was her whole world, and she was like giving all that stuff back. It's like, how did you not see that? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I replay that moment a lot, man, in the bus station.
Yeah.
She, you know. Yeah, but I was, you know, definitely a different person after that, for sure. Mm-hmm. Definitely a much different person after that. So.
See, my family does this, like, weird thing where it's somebody will say something, you know what, to be honest with you, I can't speak for my family, I'm just going from what it looked like to me. Somebody might say, oh, I bought this new house, and inside you're thinking, whoa, he shouldn't have spent that money on that house. And then, but outside they're like, that's good, I'm very happy for you, you're gonna have a good time, and they're like, there's all this like this, the way that they talk and the way that they say it and blah blah blah, and I don't know how to explain it, but like, I remember when I dropped her off at the bus station, she said, yeah, I'm gonna be moving to Louisiana, but she kind of like, it almost sounded like she was like looking for what my thoughts on that were, and because we had kind of been talking about God and stuff like that, and when she said it to me, like, I just went into that mode like my family does. I'm like, well, you know, and then, because I thought it was a little bit weird, the negative thought was, who do you know that's there? And then I was like, well, that's good, you'll probably meet some new friends and stuff like that, like, you know, maybe a new start, and, you know, and she was like, yeah, and it was just the way that it went, like, then after, when I kept thinking about that piece of the conversation, it bothered me, because it was like, I'm like, why did I go into that mode with that? Why didn't I ask her, well, why Louisiana? Like, if you don't even know anybody over there? Like, why didn't I ask a question? Because there was questions in my head, because I was thinking, like, how are you gonna just go in the middle of nowhere? But then at the same time, like, the people that I knew that were around her, you know, were tiring people, so I thought, you know, maybe she just wants to go and have a break and meet some new friends. But Louisiana, but I don't know.
Yeah, and there was the whole thing was like a movie, man. There was a whole algorithm to why she used that. It was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It's an unbelievable situation, but yeah, you know, she was hugging me and she said, you know, take care of my daughter, and I was like, yeah, of course. I said, of course, you know, like that. That was my life's mission for, you know, 15 years. So, you know, I said, of course, you know, I'm always, you know, she's like, I know you are. She's like, that's why I can go where I need to go. I said, yeah, go, you're good, I got it. So, that was our last conversation.
She told me, keep in touch. She really liked the conversation that her and I had had. And then, I got on the phone with you. And I was really angry about certain ways that she was treated when she was here. Mm-hmm. And then from our conversation, like it kind of changed things, and that I wasn't happy with her about something that I found, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then I didn't reach out to her, and then I was like, wow.
Yeah, the whole thing was crazy. It's a crazy situation.
It was like, now I'm a different person. Now I'm like, okay, yeah, nobody's perfect, you know what I mean? Like, so, you know, there's some people that I'm talking to now that I would have never talked to before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so, but.
Yeah, man. That was, it's a pretty crazy situation to be in, because, and, you know, like, you know, obviously causes, issues in our relationship. You know, because I'm gonna keep that promise, you know what I mean? But it's complex because
Honey, I don't even relate it to that. Like, yes, I'm sure that plays a part in it.
I'm saying I do.
Yeah, but even if it wasn't, like, I think you would still.
I honestly would not.
Really?
I honestly would not. You know.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. You seem like the type of person that would.
No.
I mean, because at the end of the day.
No. I mean, there's things that I would do because the kids are there, so that they, you know, whatever makes stuff smooth for them. But there are things that people would consider overboard that I'm doing, and that I'm sure you would consider overboard. You sent me a text. You asked me a question. I'm not going to say it on the camera. You sent me a text.
Yeah, I know.
And I was going to answer it, then work got caught up and all the rest of it. But stuff like that is...
Well, my issue was that you didn't ever talk to me about it. I had to find it out about it through somebody else.
Well, yeah. I mean...
And that was overboard.
That's why I said, like, I'm not going to bring that specific up because it's going to go off into some other conversation. But, like, that stuff, things like that are for her. Because, you know what I'm saying? Like... You know, I'm like keeping that promise regardless of the nature of the relationship with the other one. You know what I mean? So, and I understand like, you know, how people feel about it, but that's just not people but you. But you know, it's one of those things where I'm just like, you know, that's the way I deal with it, and I don't know, maybe 10 years from now it'll be different. Maybe that person, you know, whatever, but you know, but it's kind of like, but I can relate to like being that person, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that whole thing would annoy me more if the person wasn't like there's some people that don't want any independence. They just want to like, but that person, they want their independence, you know what I mean? And so I'm less annoyed with that, but
yeah, but I know like I don't think you're crazy either.
Oh, I know I'm not crazy.
You know, I don't think you're crazy for feeling the way you feel about it. You know, it's just one of those situations where, you know, it is what it is. And,
yeah, but like I said, my thing was just, you know, we're married, so that should have been something we should have talked about.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. So, you know, but yeah, it creates very, very interesting situations because, you know, it's an obvious miss. I was too caught up in my own situation with her to really pay attention to what the hell was going on. Because, like always, we were fighting all the time. So I'd open up the door and I'd see all these boxes, and I'd just like, you know, push through them to get to my. And there was no thought like, what the hell is she doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
People always tell you like, oh, you know, you can't blame yourself, blah blah blah. It's like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're not in that situation, so how can you say? But yeah, it's a weird thing to be around and be anonymous in a crowd. No one knew a thing about me, just longing to be accepted, which was true. That was a big thing. That was a very, very big thing. And she never projected it out there to anybody. Like, she kept all that stuff close to the chest, but she always wanted to be accepted. You know, and that was like one of the main difference between me and her's personality type, is that she wasn't a very popular person. She didn't know how to ingratiate herself into a crowd.
I liked her so much.
Well, she was living such an insular life because her whole life was around, her daughter. So she was never able to go out and club and all. Like her entire child, I mean, she got pregnant at 15.
Yeah, I know.
So, like, she had essentially had no childhood, doing it by herself.
Yeah.
And, homegirl was so needy that, she never had a life of her own. And then when she did have a life of her own, because I had moved up here and brought her daughter up here. So she really was never able to, like, figure out how to establish her own life and live her own life. And, so she was never really able to, But she always had, like, a small group of friends, like a small group of people. She always had that.
Mm-hmm.
She had a neighbor that they both grew up together, basically. They were the same age and they did everything together. But, she didn't have a very big support network, and her family was just atrocious. There is something, I don't care what anybody believes, man, but they just suck the life force right out. You feel it leaving your body. Like, they're just a complete drain on spiritually, emotionally. And she'd been handling it and keeping the family together for years and years and years by herself. And her brother had just done it like 2 years before, and that never left her head, and people do that shit. You're like 33 times more likely to, in the first 6 months of some crazy stuff like that. Like that shit just got in her head and never left, And so,
yeah,
it's just one of those things, man. And that whole situation was, yeah, it's one of those things. It's a crazy situation. But, this song is about, like, the person, like, making... I've always been curious about that. Like, what... Like, you make that decision. And she made that decision in the most systemic way I've ever seen. Like, from start to finish, the entire thing was planned out. And I'm just, like... I've always, like, a lot of times I've burned, like, hours and hours trying to ponder, like... What was that line, man? Like, where was that thing where you're like, yep, that's it. There's nothing else to say. There's nothing anybody's going to tell me, like, period. And, like, I don't know. People, like, they will drop hints and stuff like that. And she really didn't drop any hints when we were there, I was just like, the hints were her sending all that stuff, but by that time we were separated by hundreds of miles, and there were times when, like, we would try to call her and stuff, and she wouldn't pick up the phone, and then when she would talk, it would be like 2 minutes. She'd have to go. Like, she really, like, angled it so, like, nobody was gonna convince her otherwise. So, holy shit, I don't know. So there you are. But I do think that line, I didn't take the easy way out. Don't tell me I'm taking the easy way out. Is, I don't really know. Yeah, what does that mean? People say that about people who did that. I've had 2 very close people that did that, and I did not feel that way about them. Abandonment, sure.
You didn't feel like they took the easy way out?
No. Abandonment, sure, but I never looked at it that way. You know what I mean? Like, for whatever reason, I think maybe I understood what it was like to deal with that person, and then thinking to myself, what if there was a whole family of people like that? You know what I'm saying? like we were watching that show. It was this reality show with these kids, these young teenage kids, and there was this one mother who was just... like, the entire world was about her, everything was about her, and it's about the kids getting this opportunity to get a record deal, and they're competing in all this, and it's about the kid getting the record deal, and you're just supposed to, like, manage them and help them, but, you want your kid to be successful. But it was, the whole thing was like, I live in this horrible situation, I've got 8 kids, and we live in a trailer park. It's like, you did that. Like, that's not on your 14-year-old son to solve that problem for you. Like, to win some 1 in a million contest. Like, you know, like, what are you talking about? And then he lost. He got to the finals and he lost. And she's like, what am I going to do now? I thought, you know, the entire thing was about her. And then he has to hug her and take care of her.
She walked out of the room.
Yeah, she walked out of the room.
He followed after her, and then he was putting his arm around her to comfort her. He's the one that just lost.
He's the one that lost. This is his life, you know? So
right, it's like you said, she made those decisions.
Yeah.
People don't just get pregnant from drinking water.
Correct. You had it 8 times, like, you know what
right.
it means.
You
like,
knew what was happening. You knew you were still in that trailer.
So, like, you put that, but, like, that was how she lived her whole life. And she never had, she was always taking care of somebody, and seemed like that was the nature of the relationship with her mother. You know what I'm saying? Like, no disrespect to her, because I don't know that story, but. So if somebody's lived that way their entire lives, you know, she was 38, I think it's 43. I'm not sure. But she was one of those people that didn't look like it. You know what I'm saying? She had a very, like, unique look about her. So different. So different. So I would never say that about her, because, like, if you've endured that for 40 years of your life, like, people have no idea, like, especially if you're dealing with your own mental health issues, if you have people around you like that are just completely tough. Like, me, you know, like, I have, you know, clinical depression or whatever, so, I mean, it's not anybody's fault. But, like, you don't exacerbate it. Like, you go, oh, I wish I could find ways to help you and blah, blah, blah. But, like, I know, like, okay, I'm going to get out of this funk. Sori's going to be there. We're going to be good. Like, or sometimes you just sit next to me while I play video game or whatever and zone out, and you don't really talk to me much, which I'm very grateful for. But, like, you don't exacerbate it. But, like, going through depression and then having to uphold an entire, like, family and all that, like, it's like, not like as a man to your house uphold the family. I'm just talking about as it being a child upholding your parents and all, like. So I could never say that about her. I could never say that. I could never say that about her. Because, like, I understand what that's like, you know what I mean? And I'm sure she had her own issues that were never diagnosed and all that. And, you know, a lot of that was her decision. She made that choice not to seek professional help. But I could never, ever say that she took the easy way out. You know, to me, it was more like, if you were, imagine being born, you know, hanging on at the edge of a cliff your entire life. And a person is, like, holding on for years through sleet and snow and mud and monsoon, and they're still holding on the edge of a cliff, and they finally let go. You wouldn't say, oh, you're taking the easy way out. Like, that's the way that I kind of looked at it with her, you know. So I remember when me and homegirl got married, and she was not good. She loved me, but she was just not good. You know, like, it's just another kind of weird situation. At the time, I was pissed off at her, you know, because my mom wasn't that was such a crazy video. Like, I don't have the video anymore, thank God, but it was a weird, very eerie video, because my mom was there, and she was there, and the room was dark, and they both had horrible performances that day. Like, horrible. She was completely miserable, and my mom was, like, all on her stuff, you know what I mean? So it's just a weird video, and, you know, so both of them didn't do well that day, and I think the day was just, like, very symbolic to the both of them, you know, especially to her. She was never able to get married. She was engaged, but she was never able to get married because of issues and things like that, and, like, she just gave up so much, and then, you know, she's off and married and going off to start some life, and she's in the same place. I don't know. It's too much for her. But anyway, like, yeah, I would never say that, you know. And I'm not saying I would never say that about anybody. I'm just saying I would say that about her, because I know what it's like. So there you go. The guitars are heavy as hell, bro.
Yeah.
Those guitars were insane. It was just a heavy song, start to finish. It was very guitar driven, which was really, really cool. And yeah, there were definitely some interesting signatures in the like the bottom third of the song that was pretty cool. So anyway, day one day one of what was it, mental health, whatever we come up with for the week. So there you are, dear listener. Vin out.
You're gonna rate it?
Oh. Yeah. You know, I was gonna say Silent Cub, but the entire week is about
That's
mental health.
literally what I was thinking. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it a 9.5.
I am going with a 9.7. It was extremely heavy. And
Yeah,
I liked it.
It's interesting. Like, you like heavy music. That's. But it's gotta be like very heavy.
Right.
You don't like. Oh, I can see how that's heavy. Like, it's gotta be very, very heavy. And this song was very.
I've said
heavy.
it a bunch of times. If it makes me want to like break something or get ready, then
You
I'm
like-
like, okay.
You like heavy shit. That's for sure.
So there we go.
There you are. Vin out.
Sorry out.
Down.